I mentioned that this is part workshop, part lecture, part massive group coaching session, okay? We're going to talk about branding in a way that you probably haven't heard before. And I hope that it helps each and every one of you attract the opportunities and make them to come to you. That's what we're aiming to do. We don't chase anything in 2025. It chases us. But we got to know how to make it magnetic. We want to create disciples. So first of all, let me find out who's in the room. Who is from the West Coast? Woo! Okay, y'all be a little bit more excited. Okay, who's from the East Coast? Woo! Y'all came a long way. Who is from Middle America? Yes, all right, all right. Who is from Dallas, Texas? Yes! It's my people. And Fort Worth, too. Dallas and Fort Worth. Good, good, good. We have some international folks with us today. Who came from Europe? Yay! What part? What part? Where was that? London, yes, from across the pond. Who came from Asia? Anybody? Africa? No? Okay. Right? There's some other continents out there. Yodel them out if you have them. No? Okay, good. Welcome to everybody. The subtitle to this session is How to Bet on Your Brand When You're a Black Leader in White Spaces. Okay? That kind of gives you some context. We're not going to be just talking about how to post to social media and how to do your LinkedIn profile. I think most of you know how to do that, and you can hire somebody to help, okay? Very tactical. Today, we're going to actually talk about what branding means, and I'll tell you more about myself here in a bit to give you some context as to why I can talk about this with such authority. We're also going to debunk some myths. There's a lot out there about branding and personal branding and what it is, and we're out there believing some things and trying to act on it. Let's level set, make sure that it's right. And then finally, we're going to talk about how to build an emotional connection with the people who make the decisions to actually make those opportunities chase you. But then also one-to-one with your colleagues, your bosses, and other stakeholders. Are you ready? All right, let's go. That's me. All right, here I am. A little bit about me. I am the leading voice in leadership at the apex of science and culture. What does that mean? I am a student of culture. Whatever culture means, it's not just about race. I like to say, it's the thing that makes your squad a squad. Anything that brings people together in community. I am a student of that. When it comes to science, it's all about positive psychology and neuroscience for me. So we're talking about mindset shifts, and we're talking about behavioral changes. And you're going to need some of that to get where you want to go as someone who wants an excellent magnetic brand. I spent over 25 years as a strategic communicator for some of the biggest brands, one of which, and my ladies are in the room, was AT&T. Let's give it up. Yay. Awesome. I also work for some of the big agencies, the global ones, Fleischman Hillard, Ketchum, Golan, making VP before the age of 30 and SVP before the age of 40. Somewhere in between there, thank you, somewhere in between there, I started my first business. It was a boutique strategic communications firm. And we worked primarily for big brands with fast food, quick service, beauty brands, you name it, some technology too. All throughout that time, it was my and my team's job to guard reputation for some of the biggest brands out there. Now, some of you may be thinking, well, that's brand. There's a difference between brand and reputation, and we'll discuss that too. I'm also an International Coaching Federation credentialed executive coach. And I'm very proud to help many women, just like yourselves, and others make their way to the C-suite. And if you're already there, we help sustain it and get you where you want to go afterwards. So my job really is to help you ladies hone your executive presence, hone your positioning, understand how to read the room, be self-aware enough to make the decisions that you have to as a Black leader, especially as a woman in white spaces. So what is personal branding actually? This little diagram is kind of makeshift, but it gives you an idea of where we're going with this. I mentioned there is a difference between your brand and your reputation. But before we get there, if you look at this diagram, it looks like a funnel. Let's call it a basket. Didn't have a great graphic for that. But inside of that basket is you. There are some things that are already there that you're born with. One is your culture. And again, culture is more than just race. Culture is everything that makes you who you are and what you do. Whether that means you're a person of faith, whether that means you're a person who loves sports, your culture is a part of this basket. Your personality is a part of this basket. Your work style, your communication style, all in this basket. And whether that was something you were born with or you learned along the way, nature versus nurture, it's in this basket, okay? The other one is going to be interpersonal. Again, that is that communication style that you may have. When you come into contact with other people, you adapt in some way. I'm a certified DISC practitioner as well. Who has taken the DISC? D-I-S-C, yeah. And that really does hone in on self-awareness and understanding who you are. Now, you can put more things in this basket, and you probably have more things. And the good news is you can take some stuff out. So, who has something to write with? A pen, a pad, your computer, your device. Write this down. What's in my basket? What are the things in my basket that I'm proud of, that make me who I am? And then what are some of the things in my basket that I might need to take away to get where I want to go? So as you think about that, all of this dovetails and impacts the perception of you, okay? So on one side, you have your brand. On the other side, you have your reputation. Let's talk about the difference. Your brand is not a logo. It's not a color. It's not your website. It's not your social media posting. It is the intentional experience that you put forth internally and externally when we're talking about your company, mostly offline. I want to underscore that part. There's a reason for that. In person is the experience that we're going to concentrate on today, and we're going to put online in its place so that it can amplify your interpersonal communications and dealings. Your reputation, and I've heard people conflate this before, how many marketing executives and comms executives are in the room? Who can vouch for me? Okay. Your reputation is what they say when you're not in the room. You can't control it nearly as well. Now, these big brands have teams of people, floors on floors, armies of people that spend their time defending the company's reputation. They also have teams of people who spend their time intentionally building the company's brand. Your personal brand isn't any different. And the insight there for you is that a brand isn't built in a day and just from one-off tactics. It takes time, it takes effort, And we can't expect to have these big brands like maybe an AT&T, but we can have a big brand that fits ourselves and what we're here to do. So let's talk about why this is important, okay? So much has happened. We are in a time of uncertainty and change, and you know what? It has been this way since before 2020. Back in 2019, when I first gave this presentation, companies were reporting that they were only going to keep workers between 3 to 5 years. That was pre-pandemic. This was when all of the companies were talking about right-sizing, getting those agile teams, trimming down. This was before we even talked about AI. All the companies reporting in this research said that they would only keep workers between 3 and 5 years. Now, you may be saying, Coach L, I don't understand because I want to stick with my company and I've seen people make it all the way to the top. Yes. But let me tell you, in the last 5 years, I have witnessed, whether you're in the trenches or you're in the E or C suite, they may call it a surplus here. They may call it a layoff there. They may call it a retirement. But how many people have you seen walk out the door, whether they were pushed out, pulled out, walked on their own? Gone is gone. So if the companies are making their decisions, doesn't it make sense that you make yours about your career? Being in charge of the change. Change happens 2 ways. It can happen to you, or you can instigate the change. And I'm here to tell you that now is the time, in this time of uncertainty, to take the reins on your brand, on your career, on your positioning, because you just never know. Now, during this time that we heard these stats back in 2018, 2019, something like that, millennials, can I shout you out right now? Who's in the room? Yes, I want to shout you out. I'm Gen X. When I ran that agency that I told you about, I hired a bunch of millennials, hired a bunch of them right out of college. And I love them because they wanted to take ownership of something, but they also knew that their time at my agency was not the end of their career. And for Gen Xers and boomers older than I, when we saw that, many people, not myself, said, they need to stay somewhere for a while. They need to make sure that they contribute. They don't need to just go and then be gone. And many of the millennials were thinking, 18 to 3 years is enough. And that's what they would do. They get what they need to learn here, and then they move on to the next thing. But guess what they were doing? And now we know. We can look back and we can see this. And maybe they didn't even realize it. But the fastest way to get promoted, to get a raise, to get bonuses in that title is to leave. Now, if you go back and tell your bosses that I told you to leave, I'm going to deny it. But it's just a fact. The longer you stay somewhere, the slower your progression will be. Take a look at Tasunda Brown Duckett's LinkedIn page. Take a look at Rosalind Brewer's LinkedIn page. And look at the last 10 years of their career. You will see that they were somewhere a long, long time. And then suddenly, they started to move. And if you start to look, their time at places became shorter and shorter until they made it to the C-suite. It's just the reality. Now, Gen Z has figured this out, too. How many of you guys are Gen Z? Ladies? Good, good, good. It's important now more than ever, and HR will tell you this now, too. Even within your company, if you want to stay in your company, you don't want to stick around more than 3 to 5 years in the same role, right? Now, some of us are specialists, and you may say, well, I'm in strategic comms, so this is what I do. If you want more pathways to the C-suite, you better see what else is out there in that company. And I will tell you that if you're in marketing, the creative side of marketing or strat comms, You have some of the same skills that will get you places in that company as your colleagues. So personal branding is not, this is going to be the myth buster piece of this, it's not a tactic. It's not a tactic. It's not a social media post. It's not the minute you show up in a headline in media. It's not the fact that you stood on a stage and you delivered a keynote. That's a tactic, okay? That's one thing that it's not. Another thing that it's not, make sure I see this, because I don't have on my glasses. The other thing that it's not is instant. It takes time. It just does not happen overnight. Even when you see, let's look at celebrities, okay? Even when it seems like they just popped like that and they're everywhere all of a sudden, once they sit that celebrity down, they'll tell you, well, actually, I've been at this for a long time. I was 12 years old when I was first on Star Search. And I got my first big break. But you're going, I don't remember that kid on Star Search. You may not have even been born. But they've been working and working and working and working, and consistency and grit and resilience paid off to that one day that they popped, and now they're everywhere. Now, we're not trying to make celebs here, but it's a great way to think about it. It takes just as much work, it takes just as much grit and resilience to build a magnetic, emotionally connective brand. And then finally, brand isn't about popularity. Now, someone may ultimately become popular because of their brand, but you can have an excellent brand with reach and not necessarily be popular. And that's good news for us. Later on in this presentation, we talk about how we as Black women are not centered in white spaces. So how in the world are we ever going to be popular? That should be good news for you. So let's talk about what it is. Let's do this. Tactics are amplifiers, especially the ones I just named. Jot that down. Social media is an amplifier. It expands your reach. Speaking on stages like this, another amplifier. And we'll get to small gestures and grand gestures. That's what I call these things that I'm naming, the grand gestures. Because grand gestures can undo anything that you do personally. And small gestures, we'll get to that in a bit. The other thing is that good branding takes strategy. It takes strategy. It takes some plotting and sitting down with it, asking some hard questions, which we're going to do today, and then implementing the strategy. The ultimate goal is brand loyalty. Social media doesn't get you that. Standing on the stage doesn't get you that. There's some things you have to do before and during those grand gestures to prove that, one, you are excellent. Excellent. You can't have raggedy reviews every quarter or every year and expect to have a magnetic brand. You have to create buzz about yourself, and not because you're tooting your horn, just because your work is that good. Somebody will sing your praises if it's that good. Now, you may be saying, I'm very good at what I do. I make my widgets, and I'm great at my widgets. And when those widgets are made, they are excellent. But you got to do a little bit more. Understand that business context. Understand how your widgets make the thing work. Do a little something outside of the widget making to make someone else's business shine. I'll tell you a story. When I was at the big company, I had a boss He was a senior vice president at the time. Ultimately, he would be the chief communications officer. But I was told by a mentor that this SVP liked to see good things from his employees and his team, but one or two wonderful things weren't going to turn his head. He told me that I needed to create an echo effect around this man. I need to make sure that his stakeholders at his level, at the time I was a director, heard nothing but wonderful things about me whenever they came into contact with them. So I had work to do. There were at least 10 people around this table that he discussed. And there was one meeting that my SVP went to every month. And I made sure that each month he had exactly the notes and the results that he needed to report out to this group. And I also made sure that I was working hard and smart and excellently for everybody around that table. So guess what starts to happen? He goes into this meeting, first month, somebody in diversity, equity, and inclusion and HR said, you know what? Let me tell you what El Michelle did for us. And then she would go down the list. A couple of months later, somebody in CSR, sustainability. Can I tell you what El Michelle Smith did for my team? And then she'd report out. 6 months, 8 months, 9 months later, he goes into that same meeting, and all of them were saying the same thing. And he ends up at my cube after the meeting, and he said, "What have you done?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" Because I'm busy doing my work. I wasn't thinking, okay, this is the day when it pops. No. And he said, "I'm going to talk to Andy." Andy was my boss. He said, "I'm going to talk to Andy because we got to do something." And within those few months, I was promoted. But this is how you make a brand pop. You actually have to do the work, and you start to do things that are above and beyond the widget you're assigned to. Guess who understood brand loyalty very well? And I bring up Madam Walker, not simply because her great-great-granddaughter was my first client at the agency that I built, Alelia Bundles. You probably have heard her name. She's the one that has done her biography, and she had the Netflix Self-Made series. Who saw that? Okay. But Madam Walker knew something. She understood that if you met a need of your audience, okay, and in her case, these were Black women just like her who were struggling with their hair. And I don't know if anybody has actually broken this down for you. Some people believe that it's about straightening combs and straightening hair. It was not. We did not know how to do our hair coming out of slavery and Jim Crow, going into Jim Crow, all of that. We had matted hair. We had alopecia and all sorts of, we were losing our hair. We didn't know how to comb through it. This lady was having the same issue. That's why she got with Annie and started making up these formulas. She made the formula, and then she started helping these women to heal their hair. They were growing their hair back. They could put a comb through it. This was an emotional connection that Madam Walker was making with these women. And guess what? They didn't just want the product. They wanted to sell the product. And the first Mary Kay type business was formed. She understood brand loyalty. These ladies would do anything for Madam Walker. Why? She met a need and she delivered on a promise. That's what I need for you to understand. Meet a need, deliver on the promise, and you will have disciples. They will scream your names from mountaintops, and one day the SVP will come down and tell you you're getting promoted. I mentioned Mary Kay. You need to read her book. This is an old book. It's called People Management. People management gets into the nuts and bolts of how she built the Mary Kay brand. Mary Kay Ash lived and died in Dallas, but we all know about the pink Cadillacs. How many of you know somebody with one of those? The last time I saw, they had Mercedes-Benz. They had everything. But she understood how to get attention, but she also understood that you meet people where they are. That's how you create brand loyalty. And yes, once you get people enamored with what you can do and the needs that you can meet, that's when you do the pink Cadillac. That's when people buy into it and say, oh yeah, that's real. That's real. Okay, so again, tactics are amplifiers. Good branding takes strategy. Are you jotting this down? We're going to get into what we need to do to get to the strategy here in a bit. And a good brand is about brand loyalty. And you see, it's not about popularity. That's good. Okay. So, I'm going backwards. That's the problem. Sorry about that. All right. So I kind of hinted towards this. There are grand gestures. Me standing on the stage, talking to you at Black Enterprise Women of Power, it's a grand gesture. Me to fly in from Dallas and talk to hundreds of women, it's a grand gesture. God really created us to speak one-on-one to people. But when we speak to groups like this, we better have something to say. And guess what? You better have the credentials to back it. Why? You want people to believe you. It'd be one thing to stand on this stage and you didn't know anything about me or had my bio to look at, to know if I even know what I'm talking about. Those are the small gestures, brick by brick, where I've built my brand over years. I do have people that say, well, you know, when you left AT&T in 2019, it just seemed like, boom, you just popped. I was like, honey, it took 25 plus years to do what I'm doing today. It takes time. So for you younger, more junior level folks, take heart. You're still building. For those of you who are more veteran, more seasoned, maybe it's time to take a look back, because they're keys to your future and your past, and take stock of what you've done. Take stock of your life and understand that there are keys, there are trends, things that have happened in your life story that bring your leadership platform to life. If you've been doing the same thing for 15 years, don't let that discourage you. I guarantee you've done more than you thought. It's a matter of taking inventory. The small gestures, if you don't get those right, can be like death by 1,000 cuts. And I'm talking as small as how you greet somebody in the hallway, if you do or not. How many of you know somebody that's made it to the C-suite, E-suite, something, and you can't even make eye contact with them in the hallway? We've all met these kinds of people. People who are absolute jerks. But sometimes you can be a nice person and still not cognizant of the way you're interacting with other people. All the way down to your email signatures and your out of office. All of these things build up to the way people perceive you. And you can be intentional about these things. How am I communicating? How am I showing up in meetings, whether they're online or off? We know it's more inclusive if you tell folks that they don't have their cameras on all the time. And we know as Black women that during certain times, we want their camera off because we're just not fooling with folks. But if your camera is off all the time, what's the message? Not available, not present. What else? You may not even care. They will make up stories about you. They will make up stories about you. Let's take this a little further. You have Teams meetings, you have Zoom meetings. What does your stagecraft behind you say about you? Have you taken time to get the best light, the best lighting? And y'all, it's cheap. I'm not telling you to go out and buy, photography lighting, professional lighting. I'm talking about going on Amazon and getting something better than the little light loop that's been around for years. Good lighting and a good microphone so they can hear you and that you're present and you're looking in the camera when you speak. Making sure that the little things behind you tell a story or at least say something about you. Every little thing matters. If you can't build those little blocks, whatever you tweet, it means nothing. How many times have you seen an influencer of some kind tick off somebody over here and then expect everybody to show up when it's time for her to get her book signed? Have you seen that? I've seen it. And guess what? I didn't want to have anything to do with them either, because I heard. So you need to make sure that every small gesture aligns with the feeling that you want people to have when they come into contact with you. Which brings me to this. Scan the QR code. There are a couple of tools here for you. One of them is a personal brand builder mapping tool. The second one is a value proposition builder, okay? So in the personal branding tool, we ask that very question first. How do I want people to feel? And we use a feeling word. We'll get back to that because some of us can't use feeling words. We'll get back to that. But it's got to be a feeling word. How do I want people to feel as a result of experiencing me? Jot that question down. Give it some thought right now. We're not going to go through the entire tool. It's yours to take home. Get back to the office, work on it. But this first question is crucial. It's crucial. Let me ask you this. Who has a favorite name brand? Anybody? Shout it out. Carolina Herrera. Who said that? Okay. Can I get you to go to the mic for a second? Yeah, come on, let's talk. Carolina Herrera. I love the perfume. Everybody know about the polka dots? Yeah, okay. Nice dresses. Beautiful designs. Do you have Carolina Herrera perfume or designs at home?
Yep, I got it. You name it.
You got it all.
I show up at all the trunk parties and
you got it all.
Whatever they doing, unveiling, unboxing.
You are Miss Carolina Herrera.
I could,
Good,
the
good.
brand itself.
Let me ask you this. How does Carolina Herrera make you feel? Give me a feeling word.
Feminine.
Feminine.
Powerful.
Powerful.
Connected.
Connected.
Because when other women smell it, they like Carolina Herrera. Or if they see it, Carolina Herrera.
Brothers like it too.
It's like a club.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're in the club.
I am in the club.
In the club.
In the club.
Yeah.
We all fam.
In the club. We're all fam.
Carolina Herrera.
It gives you a distinct feeling. Thank you so much. Everybody give her a hand. Who else has a favorite brand? What was that? Come to the microphone, please. I think she said pirouette. I think that's what I understood. Okay, pirouette. Gotcha. Okay, you're going to have to tell me about pirouette. Here she comes. Okay, tell me about pirouette.
It's pure lip.
Okay, pure lit. Gotcha.
Pure lip is perfection under raw elegance.
Oh.
All of you should have some in your bag.
Okay, wait. Is this your company?
It is.
Okay. Full disclosure. Very good. So let me ask you this. You have spent time with this brand.
Yes.
And you know how you want people to feel. So, Tell us about the feelings that you intentionally set out to create with your audience.
I want women across the world to feel the sisterhood and the commitment that other sisters have to bringing out the best beauty in you.
Okay, that's great messaging, great messaging. But let's extrapolate some feelings. What I heard from you when you said sisterhood, it made me think of pride. Pride is a feeling. It also gave me an idea around joy. I know when I'm with my community of sisters, I feel joy. What other emotion comes from that?
Confidence.
Confidence. Very good. Exclusive. You were in the club.
Felt exclusive.
Again.
Thank you for that. I
Yes.
appreciate you. I do.
Exclusivity means that you are set apart.
Yes.
Not everybody can do this.
The other word is unique.
Unique.
I want you to feel like you are a unicorn.
Oh, a unicorn. Okay. I like that. Yes. Thank you. Everybody give it up.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you.
Very good. Now, we went through this exercise because you're going to be that intentional about the experience you create for others. Aha. Very good. Think of 3 feelings, emotions that you want people to have when they come into contact with you. I heard joy. Yes, joy. Joy is good. Joy is one of the 10 positive emotions from neuroscience that can turn a negative mood into a good day. Who else? I want them to feel, one more time, inspired. Very good. Inspiration is also one of those emotions. Very good. How else? Excited, powerful. What else? Encouraged. Okay, good. Listen, now the next step that you take is to ask, what am I going to do to make them feel this way? Okay? So let's make some commitments. When you get back to the office or back to your home office in your own Zoom, whatever it is, what will you do on Monday to make your colleague feel joy? That was one of the words I heard. What will you do to make that direct report that comes your way feel encouraged, feel confident? So, you got 3 feelings that you're going to fill in. This is the way I want them to feel. Now, the next block on this document is one where people get stuck. And that asks the question, how do people feel about you right now? Yeah, that one's tough. How do you find that out? Say it again. Ask. Ask. Now, you got your 360s out there. But those, sometimes, let's just be real, right? When the boss does it, they pick all the wrong folks. They ask all the wrong questions. What if you could do that yourself? What if you could administer your own 360? I do that for a lot of my clients. I'm from the outside. I come in and I ask whoever she tells me I need to ask. And I ask the ones outside of the organization who've really worked with her. But you can do it on your own. Even if you invite people to coffee and ask questions, or if you just set aside some time to chat over the phone, whatever it takes, find out. Because we all always grade ourselves on the curve. And we'll be out there saying, oh, everybody thinks I bring joy. I just bring joy to a room, you can tell. We may not know that for sure. And the best way to do that is to ask. So the rest of that document takes you through a step-by-step means to find out who you are and what you want your personal brand to be. The second one, ask the first question that gets people stumped too. What one problem do you solve? And I'm not just talking about work. I'm talking about you as a human being. It should be that big that work fits underneath it. What is the one problem I solve? The next question is, who do I solve it for? This is classic marketing, y'all. Who's the audience? Who do you help? And I got to ask you to be specific. Yes. Yes, go ahead. Go to the mic. Or that one over there, whichever one is closer.
Sorry, I didn't know I was going to have to come to
It's
the
okay.
mic.
Good.
Just on this one that you just asked, so what one problem do I solve? One question I have is, if you have an answer to that right now, but you feel like it's misaligned with your sense of self or, you know, the answer you want it to be, how do you fill that gap of this is the problem I solve now, maybe this isn't where I want to be? Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. When you say misalignment, tell me what you mean.
So I think about the panel from yesterday when we were discussing fixers and the glass cliff. And I think there was a statement on, not feeling tied to the role of fixer, especially for women of color who often get pulled into positions like that. So if right now, for example, the one problem I solve is being a fixer and fixing and figuring it out,
Gotcha.
what if I want bigger things for myself?
Name what that is. Name that goal. And start every day doing something towards that goal. Be decisive about it. We see this a lot, especially with a lot of Black women leaders. Sometimes we get stuck in that whole, oh my gosh, she can fix it all. She's that turnkey person. She's the generalist. She'll get it done. When you want to be that strategic leader that people come to for consultation, for strategy, you have to ask yourself, what do I need to do to be that? And then ask yourself, what can I start doing tomorrow? What can I start doing today towards that end? And then you have to understand what you need to say no to and be brave enough to set those boundaries. Does that help?
Very much so.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you.
Awesome. Now, this will take some time. I've written a few books. I missed that I was an author. I don't know how I did that. But there is, at the bottom of the value proposition document, there is a formula that will help you to piece together your value proposition. And it starts with the idea of your passions, those big ideas that evoke emotion in you, okay? And I say, passions are those things that if you're on your deathbed and they call in the chaplain, they're reading your last rites, your whole family's all around you, and your eyes are about to close, and at the last minute, you raise up and you say one more thing. You need to be that passionate about it, okay, to put it on that document. That is kind of funny, isn't it? The second thing are your superpowers. Now, when I describe superpowers are those things that if they tied you up, bound your legs, threw you into the ocean, blindfolded, you could still do that thing. You could still do it. A hard skill, not a soft skill at this point, okay, because we all understand we're leaders. Hard skills. You get your passions and your superpowers. You get who you solve the problem for, and then you build your value proposition, okay? The first book where I unravel this is called No Thanks, 7 Ways to Say, I'll just include myself, okay? The second book is the one that I'll be signing right after this. It's Yes, Please, 7 Ways to Say I'm entitled to the C-suite. And both of them are based in positive psychology and neuroscience. Let's keep going. Got a few more minutes left, so let's ask the question. We asked this question at ELC, the Executive Leadership Council. How many of you have been to any of the leadership? Yes. What's Black about it? Well, I'm going to read you a little something. Shining became a detriment. How many of you know that when you're in spaces where you're not centered, it's very difficult to be likable. Very difficult. One, because the word corporate itself means one body. One body. So in these older industrialized companies that really buy into corporate, they will say everybody falls in line. And if somebody is different from what that corporate body is, then you're an outsider. You're not with the program. We are, by definition, not a part of the whole because we're on the outside. So shining is a problem. And after I read this, we got to go to Q&A. It looks like we're about over. And I saw somebody that was standing there. I didn't ignore you. We're going to get back to you, okay? All right. Some of them will never like you, especially if you get in their way. It is tough to get everyone to like working with you, even if you aren't in the margins. And ultimately, it is impossible, no matter who you are. This kind of likability is much more the result of a perfect storm of people in high places who are willing to not only advocate, but fight for you and influence others to consider liking you too. It's important to know that your happiness cannot depend on whether you have likability or not, sis. You need to like yourself first. Far often, we allow how everyone else feels about us to be a factor in our self-assurance and esteem. If you're wondering how I went from having a successful conversation with a C-suite leader to less than 2 years later, sitting across from that same officer discussing how he and his peers wanted to keep me at the company after receiving a surplus notice, I can tell you why succinctly. I am a high-performing Black woman leader. My story is a reflection of so many other women of color in an array of industries and companies, and their stories are all the same. You can only soar for a few years or so before someone decides to undermine you or remove you. And not all those people have to be white or male. This particular officer's rival wanted me out of the spotlight with regard to speaking about the company's commitment to diversity and inclusion. Later, she would take over the department along with another officer who just didn't understand what my team did with diversity and inclusion anyway. And that is when I noticed my time at work was pretty miserable and my upward trajectory stalled. My primary sponsor announced her retirement the previous summer, shocking everyone. My sponsorship had waned, and suddenly, as a result, I became a target and a vocal minority, pretty unlikable. They didn't know what or why I was doing the work I was doing. Simply doing my job became a threat and counter to the status quo. Shining became a detriment. How many of you know that sometimes shining puts you on the hit list? So how do you build a brand? You're supposed to be showing and merchandising your excellence. Here's some common tropes, and we'll get to Q&A. I heard you. Some common tropes. She's hard to work with. She's too self-promotional. Who's heard these? She's out there too much. I don't know if I'm comfortable with your social media posts. Sometimes those are whispered. They're not always brought to you. Sometimes you can feel the rumblings. The exposure should be for officers, not for middle managers. This is how they get at us. What's been your experience? I want you to think about that. Maybe this hasn't happened to you yet. Maybe it will happen to you at some point. Just be aware. When your Black excellence is too much, here's what you got to do. Be smart about it. Know the rules. Live by the rules. Understand the unspoken rules. Know when to bend and break them. The best way to know how to do that is to make sure you have a mentor or sponsor somewhere in that organization who will tell you the truth. Don't just go at it. There's some other things. Know the clues, play by them, okay? Know those rules. And then, let's see. Gate your content. That's an important one. Everything's not for social media. If you need to build a newsletter, do it. Your boss can't see that. Your boss can see LinkedIn. Maybe you don't need to build your personal brand on LinkedIn. You can do it. So think about these things. All right. One more question that you guys need to take with you. Take a picture of this. What one step are you willing to take to increase your personal brand presence despite being the double outsider? And now we can go to Q&A. Oh, yeah. We're going to talk about self-awareness. We're going to miss it. Okay.
Here are 5 keys to an exquisite personal brand that you probably haven't heard
More
before.
volume?
Number 1, interpersonal sets the bar.
This is the wrap-up.
Brand is simply your intentional experience that you put forth in person. It's important to have that connection and to make sure that you're making small gestures that count. Those small gestures can be like death by 1,000 cuts to any large gestures that you do. And again, we're talking about how you address people in email, how you greet them in the hallway, what's your countenance like on those Zoom calls. Number 3, self-awareness is critical. How do you know how to be authentic if you don't know who you are? You need to understand yourself. Number 4, grand gestures are simply amplifiers. They do not build loyalty. Speak all you want to. You can post all day long on social media, but if your small gestures aren't together, you may be doing more brand damage. And finally, social media does not equal brand loyalty. It's a grand gesture, and it's for amplification. If you want brand loyalty, start with interpersonal small gestures. If you found this to be insightful,
Okay, let's talk. Go for it.
Hi, thank you so much for all of your insight. My name is Kamai Andrews. I work for JP Morgan Chase.
Welcome.
Thank you. So my question is regarding rebranding a bit, and in more so the sense of growth, because as you elevate, you might say, this is something that I want to do. I think this would be better for my growth. But sometimes some people like you as the old version of yourself. Just love to know how you evaluate, building that brand while also keeping that core audience who used to value you as you were before. So,
Well, the reality is that some people are just going to see you the way you were. You have to ask yourself, are you in the right place? Do you need to move around? I've been in places where I was the intern, and I tried to come back and be the director, and they still see me as the intern. That's not my place anymore. So you really need to evaluate if those people can actually change their minds about you. They might be able to, and then ask yourself, what do I need to do to help them change it?
Hi, I'm Rochelle Robinson. I am the owner of a few child care centers. So my question to you is, how do you separate your brand from the brand? So I have the company.
Is there a reason why you want to?
Yes, because I want to do more. I own child care centers, so I want to do more than just be the owner of a child care center. I want to be more than that.
What do you want to be?
I want to be a speaker.
You want to be a
I want
speaker?
to be a transformational speaker, not a motivational speaker.
And you can't do that and be the brand of your business?
I can, but how do I brand? People only see me in this light.
Okay.
So they only see me with children in diapers.
Okay.
But I'm so much more than that.
Okay.
Because I own the company. I don't do the actual work.
I got it.
I put people in space to do the work. So now I want to figure out how to do transformational speaking and kind of tell my story of how I got to this space.
Okay.
Because
Your
I think
issue
it's
is
an
operational, it sounds to me.
I'm sorry?
It's operational. You need people to do those things so that you can step out of that and become this transformational speaker that you want to be. It's not that you're giving up ownership. You're just allowing people to change the diapers for you so that you can start taking step change towards this person you want to be. Now, I challenge you to sit and do some visioning, okay? Understand what a day in your life looks like when you're this transformational speaker, from beginning of the day to the end of the day. And then you need to ask yourself, how will I make that happen? When it comes to my business, how will my business be supported while I'm doing this? And what do I need to do to grow and develop in order to become this transformational speaker that's on planes going all over the place and changing lives?
Thank
Does
you.
that help? Good. All right, good. One more.
Hello,
Hi.
I'm Tanisha Edwards, and I am a music supervisor at Saatchi & Saatchi.
Okay.
My question is slightly different because I have the intersection of entertainment, and you know that the networking and the smiling and all that stuff is a part of basically my job.
Yeah.
My question is, I think that a lot of your tips and tricks, they felt a little when you're trying to improve your position internally, like at the job you're currently at. And my question is, when you've decided or you come to the conclusion that where you are is not where you need to go next, these, the small gestures, the big gestures, I completely see how you can take those externally. What are some things you can do on the small gesture side to, I guess, start to show who you are, show your personal brand to external people so that you're quote unquote on their radar?
Absolutely. And these tips, just so we're clear, for internal and external. You need to understand who you're trying to impact, who you need to make decisions about you, who has the opportunities that you want in order to move whatever you want to do forward externally. Small gestures sometimes, even if you're talking about getting a meeting with someone, is learning enough about them so that when you do approach them, it's not cold, and you know more about them than, say, somebody who's just scrolling through on LinkedIn, just shy of being a stalker or anything. But you want to show them that you understand and you value their work. Then it's reciprocal, okay? What value can you bring to them? Ask yourself that question. Find yourself an answer, and then approach the person. This can happen across industries, across companies, across the street, around the world. This is where the empathy comes in, and we didn't really get to spend much time on emotional intelligence. But as you begin to read the room, and it's not always a physical one, you'll be able to understand what the other people need from you in order to bring that value and move your goals forward. So yeah, I would encourage you to go back through what you've learned today and ask yourself, how do I do this externally? Okay? All right, I'm wrapping. That's it. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Stay in touch. Here's all the ways to do that. Scan the QR code. If you want to have a consult or some type of discovery session, that's there. And then also becoming a part of my SOAR Academy, which is absolutely free. All the tools you can use are there. And follow me on social. I love building community.